things we could talk about. Ooh, chop it up, chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it up, chop it. We got some things we could talk about. Ooh, chop it up, chop it, chop it, chop it up, chop it up, chop it. We got some things we could talk about. Ooh.
You are now tuned in to the Chop Shop with your host, Pastor Marvin McKenstry Jr. Let's chop it up.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Chop Shop. I don't know what that noise is. All right, it's gone now. Thank you, and welcome to this episode of the Chop Shop. As always, we are blessed and privileged to be able to bring you content that matters specifically to the city of Baltimore and to the kingdom of God. I am excited tonight because we have an amazing guest with us. Y'all heard it today. The Commissioner of Baltimore City Police Department stepped down. We have been, listen, we say in the church, he may not come when you want to, but he show up on time. We have the right guest at the right time, the one and only Dr. Tyrone Powers, former FBI agent and one of the most brilliant minds in all of law enforcement, community safety, the original awardee to our consent decree, monitoring contract, and all of those things all in one. So tonight we're going to be able to break apart what it really means, not only that the commissioner is stepping down, but how it's going to impact things in Baltimore public safety. But before we get to all of that, I got to thank my right hand and my left hand, my main man, Mr. Shaka Pitts, who's no longer just a producer, but he's also a contributor on the show. Shaka, what's good with you, my brother?
I'm well. How you doing?
Also flying with us, one of our two amazing and fabulous co-hosts. We call her Miss Hot Take around here. Give it up, y'all. Put some hearts and likes up for Miss Lisha, Lady Lisha Gibson. Come on, y'all.
Hey.
And also, last but certainly not least, we have our other co-host with us tonight, and she goes by Chelsea, the Thekeptwoman.
Good evening, everyone.
So, y'all, we got a hot show today, so I want to go ahead and get into these church announcements. I heard Shaka queuing up the organ music, so sit back in your tent doors, as they say. We're going to get through these church announcements so we can get to our very special guest. We have got to send our love, condolences, and prayers out to the Hannah family. This man is a Baltimore institution in the church, gave many of us opportunities when others wouldn't, and that smile right there on that picture is what I remember about him the most. He never became so big and so grand that he couldn't remember the name of the little guy, and I'm talking about me being the little guy, low man on the totem pole. Bishop Michael David Hannah has gone on to be with the Lord, and we are so excited. We put this post up yesterday, just showing our love and condolences from Victory House Worship Center to Aaron, his son, to all of his children, his wife Jeanette. We just thank you for years unselfishly sharing this man and his great gift with the kingdom of God, specifically in the city of Baltimore. Bishop, we love you. We know that you're with the Lord, and we can't wait to see you again. So everybody, make sure you show some love and send your prayers up for the Hannah family. All right, the Stop the Beef hotline, y'all. Call or text 443-431-3705 or 443-522-7848. No police involvement. When you call that number, a man is going to answer on the other end, and we're going to intervene. The men of the We Are Us men's movement are going to intervene. Everything from paying off a debt all the way up to getting a person out of harm's way, mediation when necessary, because we got to make sure that life is life in Baltimore and that death don't reign. All right, walking hand in hand with the Stop the Beef hotline is the Baltimore Peace Agreement. If it has not come to your community, reach out to the men of the We Are Us men's movement, because we're still walking the streets. Monday will be my first Monday back after a much needed rest and some time off. And I'm so excited to get back into the community with my brothers. The peace agreement, a 10-point plan saying, if we got to eat in the street, we ain't got to die killing the street. The Mayor's Office of Employment Development, hosted by yours truly, the Employee Baltimore Show. That's right, y'all. On Thursdays, I'm on twice a day. I feel like I done arrived or something, Shaka. I don't know what you think about it, but I'm hosting multiple shows and guest hosting on WEAA. Look, God say you better humble yourself, boy. But yeah, I'm on two times a day. Y'all know that my passion is getting people jobs, and we got a whole podcast through my Mayor's Office of Employment Development job where we're talking about employment opportunities. So make sure you're tuning in Thursdays at 2. All right, y'all. Tuesday Tea Talks. Tuesday Tea Talks is live and in person on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. with my auntie, my love, Donna Black. Y'all make sure that y'all stepping in. Listen, everything about my aunt is dope. So you know if she's doing this, it's on fire. I need y'all to pull up the 4603 York Road, Baltimore, Maryland. I don't know, Shaq. I might pull up in the spot and go support myself on this coming Tuesday since I got some open time and space. But listen, I need y'all to make sure that y'all are checking her out. Everything she does is done with excellence. I'm talking specifically Black excellence. So make sure that you in the building with Miss Adonna Black. All right, y'all. I need y'all support. I need coaches. I need registrars. I need everybody. I need referees. I need everybody. We are bringing peace to my beloved Lexington Terrace Pro Homes community in the summer. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our young people have structured activity, and we're putting together a flag football league, y'all. We're putting it together from scratch. So I need everybody that if you can do anything, it ain't even got to be football related. If you could be the person that may want to make some phone calls or some computer work or anything, we need all the help that we can get. So I need you to inbox me, reach out to me. Y'all, I need y'all to step up and help us keep this summer peaceful. The Afro Soul Festival is happening this weekend, y'all. And listen, there's still a need for some volunteers. There's stipending the volunteers. You're going to see the link and all of that stuff on my page immediately after we come off the air. Y'all need to make sure that y'all there. A day of live performances, good music, and everything black. That's right. I said it. Everything black. Afro Soul Festival. This Saturday from 12 noon to 6 p.m. Make sure that you're in the building. 5-star women of color is behind this amazing move. Y'all, we know the AFRAM is coming up, but get to this with the Afro Soul Festival. It's Men's Month in Victory. Come on, y'all, give God some praise for the men. Hallelujah. We kicked it off last week with my good friend and brother, Bishop Dr. Pastor Andre Nance, and he came through with a word that really set the tone. And my brother, Bishop Donnie Neal, is going to come and he's going to put the icing on this cake, y'all. I need y'all to be with us 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. Bishop Neal came and dropped in on us last Sunday, y'all. We're excited about what God is doing in Victory House Worship Center. All are welcome. Come on in the building. Then Sunday afternoon, I call him my little brother, but he's not little by far in the ministry. Minister Jake Grice of Shalom Free Will Baptist Church is going to be with us. It's our brotherhood service. We want everybody to bring a man. We are honoring 3 men who are doing great work in the community. We have some beautiful acrylic plaques made. We're going to honor these brothers. Everybody that can't get with us in the morning, come out in the afternoon. We're going to be there at 3 p.m. and I promise the Spirit of the Lord will be in the building. All right, y'all. Whenever I see that lets me know we done made it through the church announcements. Man, listen, we done stepped up, Shaq. We ain't introducing just me and you and still getting through the church announcements in 10 minutes. We introducing me, you, Lady Lisha, Chelsea, the Thekeptwoman, talking about what's going on in the city and still getting it done within 10 minutes, man. We done progressed. We growing in this thing, and we are so excited that this man, this brother, this awesome missionary, I should call him, because he had probably enough of a pension that he could have retired and sat still. But even in his retirement from his illustrious, and I don't say that lightly, law enforcement career, he has chosen to teach, to lead, to help mend and heal this community. He put together one of the most comprehensive plans to really bring about change in Baltimore. Now, y'all know them folks don't always listen, but he put it together, and we know his work, and we're still growing to know his worth. He is a college professor. He's a consultant. As I said earlier, he's the original awardee to the monitoring contract of our consent decree. He is a former FBI agent. He's a friend, mentor, and big brother to me. I'm talking about the one and only PhD, Dr. Tyrone Powers is in the building. What's up, Doc?
Thank you, and thank you for having me on. Thank you for that.
Ain't nobody brought you up like that. I'll bring him up better than Steve Harvey, baby.
Thank you, and thank your entire crew and your entire group and what you all are doing, trying to provide information and providing information, and more importantly, solution-oriented information. Because one of the things that I know from traveling the nation, I just got back from New Orleans, and we'll talk about that in the context of the police commissioner. But and what to the national conference on race and ethnicity in higher education, 5,000 people from around the world, and had an opportunity to address them, to speak to them, and put on some workshops for them. And what I suggested to them is that a lot of our solutions don't get implemented. We have a lot of ideas because the theoretical and the practical are separated and abstract, especially to the people most concerned. And the objective is to bring the two together. We have brilliant minds, but brilliant minds won't mean anything unless we can take what they know, put it into a concrete plan that everyone can get involved in. Back to Gil Scott-Heron, who said, no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. Put it in a way that everybody can take a step. People will develop momentum. They will come up with solutions if they are invested and involved. And you have to give everyone something to do, and then they will do something else. We all need a little bit of success so that we can have some motivation and momentum. So thank you for this opportunity.
You personified a brilliant mind, definitely, and you couple it with a humility that I've not seen in many people that have done the things that you've done, traveled the world, and still, because one of the things that I didn't talk about is you are one of the foremost requested commentators in both local and national media around matters of public safety and things of that nature, specifically to the urban community. And yet you still make and take time and will work with me to be able to get you here on the Chop Shop. And for that, we're appreciative. We were intended on talking public safety anyway, but after today's announcement, it's no way that we can not kick this off by talking about what we learned today, that effective immediately, from what I understand, aside from some availability to his replacement, Commissioner Michael Harrison, with a little less than a year left on his 5-year contract, has stepped down. The buzz, I believe the information was leaked because he's been getting, people been coming at his neck, whether it was TJ Smith, the city council, or whoever coming at him and wanting to know what he was doing. When did this information actually find you? Did you already know that something was going on, and what was your immediate reaction?
Well, I kind of knew, and it's been a evolutionary process, to be quite frank with you. And when I was down in New Orleans last week, stopped by the police station down there, spoke to a captain who I know in New Orleans. And at that point, he told me, he said, look, Michael Harrison's coming back here. This is a city that love him, that appreciate him, that understand his knowledge and understand the challenges and do not play the blame game. In other words, when things go wrong in policing, we don't blame the police commissioner. We help the police commissioner. And he told me last week, I said, well, no, I said, he still have a year on his contract in Baltimore. He said, but we already making room for an office for him back here in New Orleans. It's a place where he's familiar with. He ushered through a consent decree down here. The people loved him down here. He only left because he was recruited aggressively out of Baltimore. And I don't think, as speaking to this captain, that he was really as familiar with the politics of Baltimore, which is extremely divisive, extremely bipolar, jealous. I think it goes all the way back to the Civil War when we were both in the North and the South, the Confederacy and the Union, couldn't make up our mind which side we were going to be on. And I think that he came here with certain policing skills and expertise. He understood it was a difficult challenge, but he thought he was going to be dealing with policing and not necessarily fighting politicians. And in the midst there, he believed that his talent as a police commissioner, and I know a lot of other cities across the nation just looked at his talent as police commissioner and said that your talent as police commissioner is what we need in our jurisdiction. We don't need you to be a politician. We don't need you to do the other things. We know you're kind to people. You know you're a very religious individual with a spiritual foundation. We know that, but we need your policing skills. In Baltimore, you had to have tremendous skills at politics. And I think that, to be quite frank with you, is going to hinder our ability to get the type of police leadership we need for a very long time until we can separate politics from policing. Now, policing at its very root is political, but if you bring in a person who's an expert in policing, you have to let him or her answer the policing questions. You have to let him and her set up their shop. I'll say this and then come back to your questions. Reuben Greenberg was a former chief in South Carolina years ago, an extraordinary police chief. When he went down there, they were averaging 15 murders a month. After he took over, they had 1 murder in 15 years. Told the police they couldn't use profanity against the public. Put all kind of things in place that united the police in the community. At one point, when Martin O'Malley was mayor, they were asking him to come here to Baltimore. He came here for an interview, and Martin O'Malley and that group mentioned to him that they had the Maple Linda plan, a policing plan that they wanted to give him to implement. He said, no. He said, you don't call an expert in policing in and give him a plan. You call an expert policing in to create a plan, to assess the terrain and put it in. So he turned down the position because he said in Baltimore, what they wanted was a puppet commissioner. They didn't want a policing expert. And so we lost Reuben Greenberg, who many have said was a great, all police chiefs have their controversies, was a great police chief who was good at what he did, who reduced crime dramatically, who developed a close relationship between the police and community, who reformed the police department by saying to police officers, you can never use profanity towards the public, even if the public use profanity towards you, because I send you to an academy. I pay $75,000 to train you, so your behavior should not equal their behavior and shouldn't be compared to their behavior. And eventually, even the groups that opposed him initially, like the FOP, began to say, you know what, this is just strictly policing. This is dramatically reducing crime, protecting and serving the police. It is hard to do that in Baltimore. A few examples. The mayor brought in, and this is I'm saying there's a whole slew of mayors, but this mayor brought in Anthony Barksdale as the deputy mayor of public safety. Anthony Barksdale had called Michael Harrison everything but a child of God. He had demonized the man. So strategically, why would you bring someone in who have demonized me and put him in close proximity to me? And no matter what his talents is, this is not enough on Deputy Mayor Barksdale. What it says is that you can't be in that position because I need some continuity and some collaboration at this time. I can still use your consultation. You can still help another others, but those are strategic moves that made the commissioner feel totally disrespected. They had a criminal justice program at Morgan State University. They had the number of criminal justice professionals up on stage, including the deputy mayor of public safety. The mayor had the police commissioner sitting in the audience. Now you are dealing with criminal justice at Morgan State University in the city of Baltimore. Last I checked, Morgan State University is in the city of Baltimore. You got the police commissioner sitting in the audience. When you introduced Deputy Mayor Barksdale, you said, this is the man who knows more about policing and criminal justice than anyone else in the state of Maryland. You got him standing there with your police commissioner. You just said that this man knows more than your commissioner. So even if you have certain feelings in those political positions, you can't destroy the reputation, the esteem, the work, and belittle your police commissioner and think at some point he's not planning an exit strategy. It's like being in a bad marriage where you're going to tolerate it for a while because you got some plans, you got bills, you got to take it, but you already thinking in your mind, psychologically or physically, you're planning your exit strategy. So this comes as no surprise to me based on the relationship. And I don't know what the mayor did any of it with malice. I think he did it with a lack of experience. And I think it's been historic in Baltimore City where politicians have decided that they were going to have puppets in the police commissioner's seat. And then if anything went wrong with crime, the rise of crime, the problems with crime,
they fall on the sword. Well, it's interesting because I'm glad that you shifted the crime. Shaka, we got you right after this. Because one of the things that I learned about Police Commissioner Michael Harrison is while he'll be heralded for how he managed the consent decree over the last 4 years, while he was in New Orleans doing the same thing, managing the consent decree, crime went down considerably, specifically violent crime every year while he was in New Orleans managing the consent decree. Many people said that the consent decree was the hindrance to the crime reduction in Baltimore. But I don't believe that can be true because of what I now know about his record in New Orleans. What do you think hindered us seeing the same kind of crime reduction in Baltimore while managing the consent decree the way that they did in New Orleans?
First of all, there's a number of factors. I'm not saying that Police Commissioner Harrison didn't have some things that he could have got better at. He will admit that he wasn't finished with the job. But to do that job in quicksand, where every time you go, you got city council people who can't even spell police questioning you about policing issues because they are trying to play to their audience. When you're dealing with that and you're sitting in those budget hearings and you said, this dude here is asking me about this. He doesn't understand policing. He doesn't understand deployment. Now, I'm not saying the city council shouldn't ask those questions, but they should have people on their staff who are experts in that field. It'd be like the president of the United States not relying on his secretary of defense or the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The president of the United States is the commander in chief, but he or she in the future, hopefully, should be in a position to call the person who is the military person and say, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, how do we carry this out? He or she shouldn't have to answer that. But to be in city council and have people who have never had a background in policing, some of them hadn't had a background in anything. Remember, politicians are elected based on popularity, not based on expertise, knowledge, or skill set. We don't even ask them about that. We ask them how popular they can be and how well they can sound when they come to the public and talk to us. But to sit there and have to deal with that, then have to deal with the other issues I just mentioned to you, made it more difficult for him to make the significant progress that he could any other place. Now, New Orleans is different. New Orleans had its problems of corruption. You had a mayor now, Nagin, who went to jail, who just got pardoned by, of all people, a black mayor in New Orleans who was pardoned by Donald Trump for his, and let out of jail, let out of prison for that. So they've had their problems and issues. But what the difference is that when they have their problems and issues, they don't necessarily blame the commissioner, they help the commissioner. In Baltimore, whenever there's problems and issues, we're trying to play the blame game. We are looking to blame someone rather than help someone. Rather than someone saying, Commissioner, how can we help you with this? You're the expert in this field. It'd be like me getting having surgery and going into the room with the surgeon and say, hey, look, I'm gonna tell you how to do this. Rather than saying, do you need me? I mean, I may be the patient. You want me to have them not drink water? What instructions you want me to give them? You want me to drive them here and drive them back home? How can I help you complete your mission? Baltimore is different. Everybody wants to be the person with the answers, even if they have no expertise in that area. That's what he existed in Baltimore City. And the other point that you made that is significant is that there's no police agency, especially the one in Baltimore, is going to dramatically reduce crime by themselves. We are us, the churches, the others. Listen, they're 2,900. Let's say this because we're close to this. 2,900 police officers. There's 600,000 people. It's not even mathematically correct unless we just failed all our math classes. The 2,900 people can effectively police 600,000 people without the people wanting to be police. I don't care whether you add another 500 officers and you have 3,500 police officers. 3,500 police officers can't effectively police 600,000 people who live here, not to mention the ones who visit and come in and out on tourism, unless there is some other agencies, there's some other people, there's some collaboration involved. When Sheila Dixon was mayor, when Kathy Pugh was mayor, I went straight to them and said, you need a director of public safety. Why do you need that? Not a deputy mayor of public safety who only know policing. You need someone who can unite your fire department, your health department, because you're going to have crime when children go to school and they've got all kind of health problems, including cavities and cataracts and all kind of eye problems. So you need to unite all those agencies. A director, a police department, a police commissioner focuses on policing issues. A director of public safety unites your fire department, your EMTs, your human services department, your health department, all under one umbrella. And what they do is they say, we see this entire picture as a way to dramatically reduce crime. You can't ask a police commissioner to see all of that and to do the work of policing, especially when he's got politicians, again, who don't know policing, who are trying to grandstand. Half of them want to run for mayor or rerun for their positions, or you have a mayor who's not acting with malice, but is always in fear that somebody may be running against him. So you feel the need to look more intelligent than you are. What makes us intelligent is knowing what we don't know and hiring the people to come in as experts and tell us what we don't know. We don't have to know everything. You're dealing with all of that in Baltimore. So no police commissioner can dramatically reduce crime by themselves. We have an issue. Let's face it. We don't want to talk about it, but I've met with numerous people, you know me, Pastor. I met with the head of the sexually transmitted disease unit at University of Maryland. He said, Tyrone, you're young people. You got a problem with sexually transmitted diseases that should have been dealt with a long time. You ain't even talking about that. He said, I can't talk about it. I think he was from India and Pakistan. He said, because then it's going to look racist. He said, but in your churches, in your schools, in your classrooms, somebody needs to talk about that, because you got young people who are getting sick physically and then mentally, because they affect your mental capacity, and no one's even addressing that. Between 2018 and 2022, the suicide rate for Black teens, Black children from 7 to 20 doubled by 50%. The suicide rate for white children didn't increase at all. Between 2019 and 2022, we're not even having a conversation about that. I've never seen a newscast in this city that lead with suicides as opposed to homicides, even though suicides are a precursor for homicides, because if you're willing to kill yourself, you're damn sure willing to kill others. We haven't even addressed that particular issue. And the only people who are going to address that, we talked about this over and over again, Pastor, the organization, it is going to be us. We're going to have to force the powers to be to bring all those entities together to say that we plan to dramatically reduce crime is not a policing plan. And we all know that. We know that in our households. We know that with our family. We know if children are not being disciplined, if there's no consequences and repercussions. I'm not even talking about for crime. I'm talking about for doing things in your household. Then that's other issues. And then let the police commissioner do his job. And he's already got the FOP. Listen, the head of the FOP, Makuso, is a man who's not an expert on policing. But every time there's an issue in policing, the media go to the head of the FOP. He was elected to the position by other police officers. The highest rank he obtained is sergeant. If he was a brilliant police mind, he would be a commissioner or a researcher. We keep going to the FOP like we're going to the FOP for expert analysis of the crime issues. No one in the FOP is an expert on crime. Maybe PERF, the Police Executive Research Forum, maybe the International Chiefs of Association of Chiefs of Police. But really, we're asking FOP about the resignation of the commissioner, and no one in there had probably read a book on policing. They've done patrol, and the highest rank the head of the FOP has attained is sergeant, and he's elected as a union leader, not as an expert on policing. And somehow, when we lead the news and we want to know how to reduce crime, we're asking the FOP for a policing plan. It makes no logical sense. And here's the last part. Here's where it's an indictment on us. At this point in 2023, for us to be grown Black people, for us to be intelligent as we are, as educated as we are, as spiritual as we are, right? As God is for me, no one can be against me. We're not even asking those kind of questions. If I want to know why we're not solving homicides, I don't need to talk to the police commissioner. I need to talk to the person who has the homicide unit, because he's supposed to be, or she's supposed to be the expert on homicides. The commissioner is running the whole department. We don't even ask to talk to them, to sit down and do an interview. We don't even ask them to come on our program so we can have a conversation. What about sex crimes? A few years ago, when we had a commissioner here who said that he found 80 boxes of cases in the back room of Black woman who had been raped in this city. The cases hadn't been investigated because somebody put them in the back room and forgot them. So you can have women raped. You know, a rape is essentially a death sentence psychologically, because we may get over it physically, but you're never going to get over it psychologically. And those cases weren't even investigated. They reported that. We haven't even gone back and said, okay, now have they been investigated? What happened to these women? What happened to their trauma and their victimization, or did they become victimizer? Because the commissioner told us we forgot those cases of rape. Think about this. If you had 80 cases of white women who were raped anywhere, I don't give a damn whether it's in Baltimore or whether it's in Great Britain. Nobody's going to put those boxes in the back room. That's what we did in this city. And that's not on the police commissioner. That's on us. We're intelligent people. We're brilliant. We've got degrees. We got certificates. We got families. We got great conversation. That's on us. And a police commissioner can't solve that. We have, through Commissioner Harris and other commissioners, in quicksand, and say, now pull us out. Now the person, we're asking the person in the quicksand, we're up on dry land. We're asking the person in the quicksand to pull us out, and he's in the quicksand. That makes
Doc,
me
you
laugh.
on fire as always tonight. You on Live with the Chop Shop. We come to you every Thursday at 6 p.m. I got to get to my co-host. Shaka, what you got for us, man?
Man, look. First of all, man, look.
He on it,
First of
man.
all, yeah, Dr. Powers, thank you for showing up, and thank you for being you're definitely in the season of not holding water. So I appreciate that. So you sort of answered my question a little. So I'm into the two eyes, intentional or incompetency, right? So I would wanted to know, which one was it? Is it intentional or is it just incompetence? And it sounds like it's both, brother. It sounds like it's both of them. And if it's both of them and it's that deep rooted, what do we do on that level as far as the commissioner, as far as the government, the mayor, the commissioner? Like if that is how they operate, and they've been operating like that, how do we get out of that piece if it's both intentional and incompetency?
Yeah, and it's not only on the part of the public officials, but on our part. It's incompetency, it's intentional, it's malicious, and it's malfeasance and misfeasance. It's all of that. We've got a stew going on here that we got to separate out. We can't make casseroles until we know what the ingredients are to go in it. You just can't throw everything in a pot like grandma used to do, because we were broke and poor and we had to make the meal go further. We're not in that particular situation right now. So we ask the right questions. You know, I've been to city council hearings. Let me just say this to you. Anger, frustration, sadness are emotions, but they're not solutions. They're emotions that we all experience. So we can go down there angry and frustrated and call names. There are radio show hosts and others in this town who love calling names, who love denigrating people, but that's not solutions, right? That doesn't mean anything to anybody but you. You just entertainment at a time when we need you to ask the question. So if we had the way we can hold them accountable is if we ask the right questions. I've said this before, you know, Pat, I want to call you Marvin because I feel like we're such close friends, with brothers, but I also want to respect your position.
Call me Marvin if you want to, Doc.
I want to respect your position, and I'm hoping that if I use your formal name, you'll pay me the money you owe. But I'm just kidding. But our ability is tremendous. The questions we ask are not. When I first came back to the city as from a special agent with the FBI, I knew what I was going to encounter. The good thing about the FBI is that I understand counterintelligence, I understand counterterrorism, I understand the behavioral science unit, the psychology of crime, the psychology of the people who see crime as an industry. I worked undercover in a drug cartel that went from Colombia, South America, to Los Angeles, to Detroit, to Cincinnati. And I sat with cartel members who sat there and told me that it's not our problem that we're delivering drugs to cities in the United States. We've never forced one person to take our drugs. If they said no, we just wouldn't have a market. So they keep blaming us to delivering to them what they're asking for because someone convinced them that they need it. In other words, the psychological issues. 52% of all the cocaine in the world is consumed in the United States of America. We are a nation of addicts. We use drugs for everything. The cartels who I work with in my undercover mode said, listen, and they were sitting there, they didn't even know who I was. They were sitting there and said, listen, these people, we're giving them what they want. They are looking at us who are delivering the drugs. They're not looking at the people who made them need and want the drugs in the first place because of trauma and deprivation and miseducation and underdevelopment and de-development. De-development being that you were developed and now all of a sudden you went in reverse. We were making great progress and now there's a program or a term called de-development. All the progress we made, it's not like we stopped because there's no such thing as stop and maintain. You're either going forward or you're going backwards. We're in the de-development stage. We're going backwards. So the way we hold them accountable is to make sure we ask the right questions. Every time I go on Fox and people say, what are you doing on Fox? You know, those people are, you know, extremely concerned. I said, listen, let me tell you something. I wanted to make it abundantly clear that I don't care whether it's the Ku Klux Klan asking me the question or whether it's the Black Panther Party for self-defense. The answer is the same. Truth is truth. And I'm not afraid to answer any question. If I'm the mayor of the city and some reporter from Fox come up to me and ask me 3 or 4 questions, I say, hold up, okay, that's a good question. Let's sit down. Let's have an interview right now. Not when you go back and prepare your notes and get one of your lawyers to help you. Let's stop the press conferences because they're not smarter than you. But we're so afraid of them that when we point to them to ask them a question, we already backing up to them. Why are you asking that question? You out to get me. Just say, no, bring it. Because you are not smarter than me. I know these people. I know my people. I know our evolutionary process. I know this city. I know the trials and tribulations we're dealing with. So that's not a question you can ask me that you can scare me into backing down or looking like I'm backing down. You don't have to send me a letter and request certain information. I'm going to tell you what I know, and what I don't know, I'll get you, because my purpose is true and honest. So what we have to do is be in a position to ask the tough questions. They're not tough questions, they're just questions. I'm not asking these questions to show how smart I am. I'm asking these questions so we can dramatically reduce crime. When the curfew first came out, people say, well, how the police going to enforce the curfew? The curfew wasn't just for the police. It's so that those parents who needed a reason to ask their children to stay at home, could ask them to stay at home and have some backing behind them. The curfew was to give other people weapons. It wasn't just for the people who weren't going to apply and abide by the curfew. It was to move the other people out of harm's way. So if you do shoot, you won't get the innocent bystanders. So I'm going to dramatically reduce the murder rate because I'm going to remove the number of people who are in harm's way out of harm's way, because there are some parents who say, thank you for that curfew. Now when I talk to my child saying you got to be in by law, not you got to be in by mom or be in by that. There is a group of people in this city who needed that. And it goes both ways. I was speaking last week at Bowie State University, and I said, listen, don't get tricked with this legalization of marijuana, recreational marijuana, because the federal government still have marijuana as a Schedule I drug, which means this. They rate it on the same level as cocaine and heroin. So all our children, and we're walking around, our politicians are walking around saying, we got to get involved with this. We got to legalize. I said, just know this, though. You are disenfranchising your children from 700,000 federal jobs that require a security clearance. Because while the state and federal government, they're not going to get arrested, they're not going to get charged, they're not going to go to jail, but the federal government are not going to hire them. So if your child is 4.0 and they're trying to get a job at NSA or the State Department or the FBI or the FDA, the federal government's going to say, yeah, it's legal, it's recreational, but it's not legal on the federal level, and therefore you're unemployed. We are participating in a disenfranchisement of our children for profit. Somebody called me and said, Doc, I got a security agency. Can you help my security agency protect when we go to recreate? I said, no, man, I can't participate in something that I know is detrimental to our people. I'm not condemning you for it, but we got to think this thing through. Everything that's good for them are not necessarily good for us. Trust me. You're not going to get a federal job. You're not going to, and these children who are going to, after that, young people who are majoring in criminal justice, I said, but you still doing marijuana. They said, but it's legal now. I said, but that means you can't get a security clearance. You can never, all this education you'll get, you're a brilliant student. But what the people who are legalizing it are not telling you is that the federal government haven't legalized it. The federal government still say you can't work for the NSA. The federal government still have it on their lie detector tests and on their applications and in their interview process. So you can do everything legal in Baltimore and then end your career there. You can be in the process right now. You can be stymieing and stuff, but it's not the parents' fault because we're not telling them that. We're not educating them to the entire picture. So that's when the other people come back and say, yeah, that's right. Your young people couldn't get jobs here, but you should have told them. You are asking us to tell your children. You are asking us to save your children. And you have a legacy of saving your own children.
While we on the subject of youth, I want to run this by you because one of the things that's been talked about, and I've had the opportunity to work with both Commissioner Michael Harrison and with Rich Worley, who I think is a great guy, great intentions, and I do believe that he is good, as they would say, good Baltimore police. But is there any such thing as a seamless transition when you're talking about the senior leadership of a police department who is in a city that is having the level of issues that Baltimore is having with violent crime? Or should we expect there to be any level of a stalling, a setback, or anything as a result of this transition in power?
Well, there can be a seamless transition because let's face it, the commissioner chose his command staff and he put Mr. Worley in this position. He vetted his people, the people around him. The commissioner came to town. Let's be in all honesty, he came in town hearing a lot about Baltimoreans, and he made a conscious decision that he was not going to put people that BS him around him. So usually when you see the people up and around him, he decided he doesn't necessarily want to date them, but he's decided that they're competent and they're the kind of people he needs in his leadership team. From that standpoint, he's already kind of vetted the kind of people that had the same mindset as him and put him in this position. Nobody will argue that he had disagreements or pushback from his command staff. There may have been others that had pushback, edged on by the FOP, edged on by others, but that command staff. Secondly, remember this, when Commissioner Harrison, or you may not know this, but you will know this tonight, when Commissioner Harrison came here, he wanted to promote more from internally inside the police department, right? The U.S. attorney told him that we are still investigating. Based on the investigation of the Gun Trace Task Force, we are still getting names from those people who are trying to get their sentence reduced. And there are people that you can't promote internally because we're still looking at them. So while people were saying he's not promoting internally, he's bringing in people from outside, the commissioner couldn't announce it at a press conference, but the U.S. attorney would say, hey, wait a minute. So if this individual who have been chosen, trust me, the commissioner had done his homework and got his okay to put this person in this position. So it could be administratively, there can be a seamless transition. The commissioner, who had a great relationship with Judge Badar, has probably already talked to Judge Badar about this, and Judge Badar is good with him. Trust me. These are the kind of things that happen behind the door. So there could be a seamless transfer that way. The only setback is that because this commissioner is promoted from internal and because the FOP believe they have secrets on every police officer who is promoted internally, and then they can hold them to their standards rather than the standards they should be trying to achieve based on correct constitutional policing, that would be the setback. But if he does not succumb to that kind of pressure from the FOP who may know him from way back there, and the people who try to bring up stuff from Commissioner Hand went through that. People who knew him way back historically say, if you don't do this, if you don't allow for this policy, we're going to tell what you did when you were an officer 15 years ago. There's a chief who just applied for a position in Texas who is an excellent chief, but the FOP didn't want him, so they released information about something that happened when he was on the police department 6 months into his agency. If he does not succumb to that, then there could also be a seamless transition in the crime reduction strategies, the strategies that are designed to enhance life chances for the people, and that it could be a seamless relationship in terms of enhancing police community relations, and none of those relationships will be severed or broke if he doesn't succumb to that. Because the other parts, I'm almost certain Commissioner Harrison had vetted him for. And trust me, Commissioner Harrison is not leaving here. He said he has to take a rest after 9 years. The rest he needs is after the 4 years in Baltimore City. He didn't need a rest after being a police commissioner in New Orleans. But trust me, his druthers is to go back to New Orleans. Not because New Orleans doesn't have his crime problems. Like every city has its crime problems, but at least in New Orleans, he doesn't have to fight the politicians and the bad guys. He doesn't have to be afraid of both the people who are committing robbery, rape, and carjackings, and the people who are supposed to support him in his work to reduce crime and to protect and serve the people against robbery, rape, and carjacking. And that's what he need a break from. He need a break from fighting a war on 3 or 4 fronts. If he's going to fight or try to change and dramatically reduce crime, he needs the ability to do that. In New Orleans, he felt he had the ability to do that. It wasn't perfect, but he didn't have people telling him what to do with his job, or didn't have people setting him in the audience while the mayor sat up on stage who don't know anything about criminal justice and had his commission. He wasn't disrespected. No one wants to be disrespected with their level of expertise. And the last straw was when the mayor said the other day, when he was asked, they said, well, you're going to go ahead and renegotiate the commissioner's contract. He said, there's plenty of time for that. That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful. Yeah. And the man who is ushering in your consent decree, you already spent $9 million on it. That's disrespectful. Say one thing or the other. I'm trying to tell you, the commissioner felt that he is competent enough at his position where he doesn't have to take disrespect from what he considered a child mayor.
You're on Live with the Chop Shop. We come to you every Thursday at 6. Lady Lisha, what you got for us tonight?
So my question is, transition may appear to be seamless. Prior to Commissioner Harrison coming on board, we kind of floated back and forth through 4 or 5 commissioners before we got him in place.
13 since I believe 2000.
Oh, see, I didn't go back that far. So 13 commissioners since 2000. If we hadn't put him under a 5-year, if he hadn't been placed, because we didn't do it, hadn't been placed under a 5-year contract, we don't necessarily know if he would have remained. How do we know whether or not we're going to see the consistency and continuity within this office if we don't have anybody there stable?
Here's the deal. I think they're stable. I think some of the past commissioners was just problematic. I mean, let's face it. Ed Norris ended up in federal prison. We had a commissioner indicted for attacks. We had all kind of so we didn't do our vetting process right. This commissioner had none of that. You get what I'm saying? And I think he very well, based on what we were paying him, had we simply let him do his job, even if we weren't satisfied with his job, I think he would have at least stayed through the end of his contract had he wasn't disrespected. I really do think so. And even if we had disagreements because we have disagreements about the job everyone do. Nobody does a perfect job. And I know Marvin think he does it perfect. Even he doesn't do it perfect. No, I'm just kidding. But not everyone does a perfect job. But I think he would have stayed to that. But the disrespect was just too much when you're talented enough to dramatically reduce crime for people in other places. So the stability in that position is going to require a thorough vetting process to making sure that we're bringing people in, not puppets of politicians, but people who are experts in policing. They have the best interests of the public in mind. Secondly, the people who don't play the blame game. This is a city, I'm trying to tell you, this is a city noted for playing the blame game. Again, when I came back and started doing work in the city with the people's plan to dramatically reduce crime, people kept saying, I got called downtown for a meeting by some public officials and some power brokers and say, okay, you back in this town, people are listening to you and all, what do you want? I don't want to, I'm not running for office. Can't you just want the things for the good of your people? Why do I have to, you get what I'm saying? So that's how this city works, that it's always quid pro quo, that people are looking for something else. So I think we can have stability in that position. I think we have stability in that position if we vet the person right, if we give them the autonomy. I think the reason that I think Commissioner Harrison was warned about the quicksand of Baltimore City. He said, if you listen to him, his coded message the other night at the budget meeting, when he was asking him about Baltimore and New Orleans, he said, no, but New Orleans is not Baltimore. He said, Baltimore. That's what he said in the public forum, that people are not as corrupted or politically ambitious or play the blame game in other cities like they do here. If you have someone who understands that, write that into their contract, get some separation between them and the politics of this particular city and allow them to focus on the things they need to focus on. Get a public safety director who can unite all those agencies, not usurp the power of the police commissioner or the fire chief or any other position, but unite them under one base, with one mission, with one goal, with the community. Then I think we can have some stability. In the past, we haven't done that because we've engaged in political policing. How can I get a commissioner in here that can reduce crime immediately so I can get reelected? Not how can I get a police commissioner in here that can dramatically reduce crime so that people can live in a peaceful environment and for once pursue peace and prosperity and happiness and safety for their children. If that's the mission, as opposed to how can I get a commissioner in here to get me reelected, if the mission is how we get a commissioner in here that bring peace to this city, give people the ability to walk around and feel safe and to enhance and increase their life chances, then I think we can create some stability.
Chelsea, the Catwoman, what you got for us?
Every time I had a question, he answered it. But I just want to ask Dr. Powers, what do you think the next police commissioner, do you think if we remove all of the overhead and let him have his way, we would have some longevity with someone to stay in place to get the things done?
And I think everyone needs oversight. So I'm not suggesting that they don't have any oversight. That's why I say a public safety director, so the mayor can go do his thing. I'm not saying he doesn't need a police commissioner, whether it's a he or she, doesn't need oversight. You know, I think they don't need you actively fighting against them or playing the blame game against them. They don't need you at press conferences explaining criminal justice things and you've never taken a criminal justice class. They need you to say, I have confidence in my police commissioner. I'm going to let him or her explain it. They don't, that's what they need. They don't need the grandstanding and the finger pointing. And they don't need you having your mayor's office, Monzi, creating a policing plan, the mayor having a policing plan, and the police having a policing plan, because the police commissioner said, but there's only one policing plan because I'm the police commissioner. So why are you creating a mayor's policing plan and a policing plan out of Monzi? If we can get rid of that mess and you have enough confidence in your police commissioner and say, you do the policing thing, you tell me what you need to be successful so that I can protect and serve the people of this city in the best way that I possibly can. You tell me what, if you need me to help you create a better relationship with the state's attorney, if you need a better relationship with the health department, if you need a better relationship with the CAO of the school system, I'm a politician. I facilitate relationships. That's what politics is. Who get what, when, where, and how. Let me know how you want me to facilitate, and then I'm going to let you do what you do.
I thought that's what the city administrator was for.
Okay, that's a good point.
Oh, sorry.
Listen, this is the first time, and this is what, and I know, and I'm saying that is a good thought, but that's not, the city administrator technically was to do the day-to-day operations, nuts and bolts operations that the mayor was incapable of. Again, we don't hire mayors because of their capabilities. We hire them because of their popularity. So if you go out tonight and you lead 20 protests or 20 movements over the next 4 or 5 years, we may elect you. Now, you may very well, maybe we should elect you, but we should elect you based on your substance, not based on just what we see, right? We need to look at you deeper and see what your skill set. We need to hear you say, listen, I'm not an expert in every field, but I'm smart enough to know that I'm going to rely heavily on the head of my health department, heavily. And listen, what a public safety director will do too is get everybody involved in dramatically reducing crime. I've said this over and over again. The Department of Public Works is going to see more than police officers on patrol. They just got to say, this is what we're seeing. This area has a lot of abandoned houses, a lot of trash, but we also, I don't have to wait for the citizens to report open air drug markets. If I got public safety people out there cleaning the streets. If you have a public safety director, he can say, report that to the public safety director. You don't have to report that to the police. And the public safety director's job is to coordinate that information so that I'm receiving information from all these different, my EMTs are the first one on a murder scene. So if I want to hire a they're likely to see more than the police do when they get there because they're seeing things when they first get there. Now, I don't want to turn them into police, but they may put that in their report to the public safety director. You get what I'm saying? So that's why you need to coordinate all that so you're not putting all that burden on the police department. We talk over and over again about the consent decree, and we mentioned this earlier, being a hindrance. The consent decree requires constitutional policing. Technically, policing was always supposed to be constitutional. It was never supposed to be unconstitutional. If I am a good police officer, I believe that I was a great police officer and a significant and productive special agent with the FBI. And I never had to plant drugs on anyone, never had to lie in court, never had to lie on the stand because the training and the techniques taught me how to catch bad guys. I had discretion. I wasn't arresting people for small amounts of marijuana. When marijuana was illegal and I was patrolling and I would pull somebody over, I said, you got marijuana in the car, let me check your car. Check the car, they only had what they were smoking. I said, just throw that in the grass, man. Don't let me catch you doing this again. You feel what I'm saying? So there's ways you can effectively police where you're not ignoring what we call the only nuisance crimes if you don't live in these communities. If you live in these communities and you come out your door and somebody urinating on your step, that's more than a nuisance crime. That's a problem. You feel me?
Powers, I hate to cut you off.
Only people who are abstract can call that a nuisance crime. Yes, you do. You do mean to cut me off, but go ahead.
We gotta rap and get you back because
that is intentional. It's intentional and malicious.
We got some time.
Egregious and unacceptable.
But look, it's the producer sending me notes talking about it's time to wrap up.
Did he?
He's gonna jump on me.
Wow. You know what I mean?
Dr. Powers, listen. We gotta get you back on here, man, and finish.
City Council in full effect.
Because the content be so rich, man. It's like school is in session. Yeah. We got Dr. Powers on here, and we got such a powerful audience on tonight. That the last thing I want to do is cut it off, but we really do got to wrap it, Doc. I thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You took no tea for the fever. I know when we reached out, we were talking about the trends in crime and all that sort of thing, but we couldn't get past what took place today. And look, right, Johnny, on the spot, you were ready. And you had great quality information for us. You always give us that insight that we may not see on the surface to kind of understand what a lot of the backdrop information is. And we want to thank you again for being a part of the show. I'm going to be right back on your text messages asking you when we can get you back, especially coming up towards this election year. We're going to need your expertise on just how what we are seeing out here in public safety can impact as we look at this upcoming mayoral and council race. But thank you again for being with us, man. We love you and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Take care.
All right. Y'all, just like that, Dr. Tyrone Powers, man. That's my guy. And y'all know why if you didn't know before, because he's going to come and he's going to bring that fire. School was in session tonight. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. But I got to thank my co-host, the one and only Miss Hot Take herself, Lady Lisha, and Chelsea, the Thekeptwoman. We thank y'all for your contributions to the show. And on the ones and twos, making the magic happen, always Techniques 1200, because anything else is uncivilized. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Shaka Pitts, we thank you. But more than anything, we thank you, our viewing and listening audience, for being with us tonight. Y'all came out in good numbers. Make sure you continue to share this broadcast. Listen, we always say it the same way. Trust God. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Be the change that you want to see. If you somewhere, don't run to what you think is greener pastures. Let your impact be felt right there where you are. I'm so grateful that my legacy in this city is going to be that Marvin loved Baltimore and did everything he could to change it. Always remember, above and beyond anything else, you can be more. Thank you for being with us tonight. See you next week.
I can be more. There's nothing that I can't achieve if I just believe.